In these modern times, data is the biggest tool that drives many business decisions. The days of qualitative analysis are almost bygone. No business evaluation can be done without looking into the key business factors and data about the same. But again, data is all about just boring numbers. What if I tell you that there is a way to make data more interactive with a tool that you must have used by now many a times? Well, that tool is Excel. And today with this session, we are going to learn how we can create MS Excel dashboards. But before we begin, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button and bell icon so that you never miss an update from Intellipaat YouTube channel. Let's look into the agenda for this session. We'll begin this session by discussing what are Excel dashboards. After that, we'll talk about key metrics in Excel dashboards. And finally, we'll learn about how you can create the Excel dashboard with a hands on demo. I hope you guys are clear with the agenda pointers for this session. So let us begin with the first topic, that is, what exactly do we mean by term Excel dashboards? In information technology, a dashboard is defined as an easy to read, often single page, real time user interface that shows a graphical presentation of the current status and historical trends of an organization's key performance indicators. Dashboards take their name from automobile dashboards. There might be hundreds of activities under the hood of your car that affect its performance. Your dashboard visually summarizes these events, giving you peace of mind to focus on properly operating your car. Similarly, business dashboards are utilized to easily assess or monitor the organization's performance. If I have to define dashboards in the context of current business scenarios, I would say a dashboard is a data visualization tool that displays the current state of metrics and key performance indicators, or what we basically call as KPIs, by simplifying complicated data sets to offer consumers with a at a glance understanding of current performance. Dashboards can also be static for one time view or dynamic, showing the consolidated results of data changes behind the screen. They can also be made interactive to display the various segments of large data on a screen. Next, let me tell you about how you can decide on key metrics for the dashboard. The core of dashboard lies in key metrics required for monitoring. Thus, based on whether the dashboard is for an organization or for a department such as sales, finance, human resources, production, etc., the key metrics that are required for display will vary. Further, the key metrics for a dashboard also depend on role of recipients. For example, executive, operation manager, sales head, sales manager, etc. This is due to the fact that primary goal of dashboard is to enable data visualization for decision making. So while creating the dashboard, it is necessary to take a step back and analyze what key factors you need to consider in the dashboard. For whom you are creating the dashboard? What context do you want to convey through the dashboard? Is it about tracking progress or analyzing a budget or identifying trends, etc.? Once you have the answer to all of these questions, it is time to import the data into MS Excel and get started with the process of dashboard creation. And that will do with next hands-on demo. Well guys, now let's get started with Excel dashboard creation. For this particular session, the data that we are going to use is particularly a sales data for 4 years of sale. So it contains different sort of products such as external instruments, then two-wheeler related instruments, wardrobe related instruments, bike parts, etc. And there are multiple categories inside it. So right now in this data set, we have almost 100 records, all right, and for them we have provided rating as well as amount of sale made in that particular year, all right. Now if you look at this whole data set, you can see that there are like multiple rows available, and all of them contain records such as year of sale, product category, then the name of the product and the amount of sales made for that particular product in that particular respective year. After that comes the customer rating for the product. If you dive through this data set, you'll find out that there are no null values available in it. What that means is we don't have to perform any cleaning. If we had any missing value, we would have dropped the certain row which had the null values. But since we have the complete data set, we can say that this data can be processed further for anything. I mean, this data can be used for pivot tables or formulas like sumifs or countifs. Now, first of all, let me convert this available dataset into a table. And in order to do that, I will use the shortcut Control T. And it will generate this small pop-up over here asking if there are headers inside my table. And yes, there are headers inside my table such as year, product category, item sold, sale amount, and rating. So I'll say OK. And now this will generate a table. Now the next thing will be creating a pivot table. For that, I'll select my entire table and I'll go into the insert tab and I'll insert the pivot chart. Now here you can see that I have got here pivot table placeholder as well as pivot chart placeholder. And if we look at this pivot chart field, you can find out that there are multiple columns such as year, product category, item sold, sale amount, and rating that were the part of our table. We have also got here filters, legends, access, and values. So in order to build my pivot table, the first thing I'm going to do is select the characteristics or the columns that I want to insert into my pivot table. So first of all, I have inserted the product categories such as two-wheelers, wardrobe, etc. Now the next thing, I'll include the items sold that are the part of these big sections such as like bike parts has bottom brackets, brakes, chains, handlebars, pedals, saddles, and wheels. And now for each of these sections I'm going to add the sum of sale amount. Alright, now here we are getting a chart, but for this particular sort of data I think the bar chart will be the perfect option. So we'll right click here and then we'll change the chart type into a bar chart. Now we don't want these product category and items sold axis, so that we'll move these axis fill buttons from our table. Then we'll go here and we'll remove the horizontal axis because I don't think we require it. Then we'll remove the grid lines as well and we'll remove the legend as well. And we'll add the data labels. Now here you can see that there is no comma separator in our data labels. So I'll go to our pivot table. I'll go to number format and we'll change the number formatting with comma separator and we'll add 0 in place of decimal places. So here you can see that it has taken effect on our chart. So let me resize this chart a bit. Now the name for this table I'm gonna give is sales. Now I also want to include one slicer. So I'll add year as an slicer. So here we have our slicer. So if I select 2018, I'll get particular amount of sale data for that particular year. All right. Now if I select 2019, I'll get data for 2019. Similarly for 2020 and similarly for 2021. All right, guys. Now let me change the format for this one. So we'll style it with this particular format. And since these are like self-explanatory numbers, we don't need title for this particular slicer. So what we'll do is we'll go into slicer settings and we'll turn off the display header. All right. So let me adjust this into our chart. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that the data I have in the chart matches with the pivot table. So for that purpose, I'm going to click on this item sold section and I'm gonna use the shortcut control plus 1 and I'll arrange categories in reverse order. Now, since we are in this area, I'll also increase the size of our bars. So I'll keep it to 70%. Alright. Now we do have our first chart ready. So let me paste this into our dashboard region. So here we have got our first chart in dashboard region. Now let's go back to our pivot table sheet. Now the next thing I'll do is I'll copy this pivot table, paste it again, and now with this table what I'm going to do is I'm going to showcase the product category versus year sale, right? So for that purpose I'm going to use product category as a column, then I'm going to set year as my row. Remove this field. Alright, here you can see that we are only getting 2021's record. So I'll go into row labels and I'll select all. I'll select OK. Now here you can see that we have data for 2018, 2019, 2020 and 2021. And since this is the data over time, so I'll use a line graph for this particular pivot table. So alright guys, now since our pivot table 2 is ready, we'll select it and then we'll insert the pivot chart. The chart that we are going to use will be a line chart because our data is providing the results over time. Alright, so we'll use this line chart with markings. Okay, so we are getting only two product categories over here instead of all product categories, so we'll go here and we'll select all. Okay, so now we have got all the product categories inside our chart. We'll remove this axis field button and similarly we'll remove grid lines as well as legend. Finally we'll add legend for all the charts, so don't worry about it. So now we have our graph ready. Now the next thing will be producing a slicer, and the slicer is going to be based on product category. So I'll add product category as a slicer. We'll right click here, go into slicer settings, and again we'll remove the header. So now we'll style it with this option. Let us copy this and put it into our dashboard. Now for now I'm going to place this slicer over here and resize our chart. Now here you can find out that once I click on bike parts, I'll get the graph related to bike parts only. When I click on two wheelers, I'll get movement in graph related to two wheelers only. Alright, now there is one more possibility that this slicer is also connected to this pivot table because we have directly copied the pivot table. So hence, so what we'll do is we'll go on this slicer, we'll right click on it and we'll go into report connection option and then we'll remove pivot table 5. So it's already removed, so we'll keep it like same. And for this one we'll also go into report connections and we'll make sure that pivot table 4 is not connected to it. Alright, so if I change the product category, the change should only happen inside this chart. Alright, and similarly once I change the year value, the change should only happen in this graph. I hope this is clear to all of you guys. Now let us go back to our chart preparation tab and now we will create a new chart. So for that purpose we'll copy this pivot table, paste it again, and this time instead of prices we are going to add ratings. So from values we'll remove sum of sales, and we'll add ratings. All right. So the thing is, we want all the features here, and here you can see that we have got the rating. Since now we have got this table over here, so I'll go into the value field setting. I'll set it to average of rating, and then we'll also make sure that it is in percentage format. All right. So here we are getting the clear numbers, I hope. Now the next thing will be creating a chart out of this. Again, this is going to be the data over time. So we'll again use the line chart. So let me select this table. I'll go into the insert section and I'll insert new pivot chart, which will be again a line chart. Now for this, I'll remove the grid lines, I'll remove the legends, I'll remove this field button as well. Now I'll add a title to this chart. So let's say this represents average rating. All right. And similarly, the previous chart represented the sales, right? Now I'll copy this chart and I'll put it into our dashboard as well. So let me adjust it a bit. Now for next two tables, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy both of these tables. So what I'll do is I'll represent the year on year growth in amounts of sales as well as year on year growth in terms of ratings. So for that purpose, I'm going to copy these two pivot tables over here. I'm gonna paste them. Now, as I said previously, what I want to show here is the year on year change. So with any of the values selected, I'm going to right click and show values as percent difference from, and the base item will be the previous year. All right. So the next year and previous year will compare the percent difference between each other. All right. So this is how it will look. Now similarly, we'll do the same for this table as well. And now here we can see that these are not the clear numbers. They are in floating integer values. So we'll go into value field settings. We'll go into number format and we'll put them into percentage. We'll change decimal format to 0 and OK. Now here we have got the clean numbers and here as well. So the next step will be creating the charts out of these two pivot tables. So let's add a chart for this particular pivot table. So we'll go into insert, again enter the pivot chart, and this time I think simple bar graph will also suffice. So we'll add a bar graph. As usual, We'll remove the access field buttons. We'll add data labels. We'll remove the grid lines as well as the legends. Alright, let us also add a name for this chart. Now let's copy this chart and paste it into our dashboard. Now similarly, let us make a chart for the rating change as well. So we'll go into the insert button, we'll insert new pivot chart, and for this also we'll choose the bar chart. We'll remove the field button as well as the primary horizontal legend, and we'll add data labels. Alright, we'll also add name to this chart as rating change year on year. We'll copy it and we'll paste it here. Well guys, now you can see that my dashboard is almost ready. Now all I got to do is to add a legend for all these four graphs, that is sales, average rating, ratio change year on year, as well as the sale change year on year. Now in order to add the legend, what I'll do is I'll click on this graph, I'll copy it and I'll paste it again. Alright, now I have got. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna add the legend to the bottom, and then I'm gonna remove everything. I wish you guys can now see here the legend option. Alright, now once I click on this bike parts, you guys can see that all the four graphs are changing over here, right? Well guys, now you can see that once I'm clicking on these different product categories, you can see that these four graphs are changing accordingly. All right, I mean they are particularly showing the statistics related to these factors only. And similarly, once I'm clicking on these different years, I'm getting the data of sale for those particular years. All right, I hope this dashboard creation is clear to all of you guys. And now, instead of looking at blunt numbers, you can analyze how your data is behaving in a easier manner as well as at a glance. That's all we have for today. I hope this session was informative for all of you guys out there. Thank you for watching the video, and to get more updates like this, make sure you subscribe to the Intellipaat YouTube channel.
Just a quick info, guys. Intellipaat provides advanced Microsoft Excel training mentored by industry experts, the course link of which is given in the description below.